because we're family. There had never been a day when those words sounded so hollow and cruel. My name is Candace. Until today, I was about to experience the most radiant moment of my life. In the venue, pastel-colored balloons decorated by my friends swayed gently. And in the center of the table sat an adorable cake made of diapers. On the wall was a handmade banner that read, "Welcome to Candace's baby shower." I could feel the warmth of my friends' blessings in every single detail. 8 months pregnant. As I lovingly caressed my growing belly, I was savoring the happiness this little life had brought me. My husband, Tom, whom I finally married last year after a long 7-year courtship. This child we conceived together was supposed to be the long-awaited first grandchild for us and for my parents. Even my parents, who had been somewhat non-committal about my marriage to Tom for 7 long years, broke into smiles and rejoiced only when I told them I was pregnant. Now we'll finally be like a real family. I had decided to believe that the slight sting I felt in my chest from my mother's words was a trivial thing in the face of today's happiness. My friends gathered one after another, gently touching my swollen belly and smiling, "Have a healthy baby." "Thank you, I'm so happy." While expressing my heartfelt gratitude, my eyes kept darting to the entrance. None of the guests of honor, my family, had arrived yet. The party was supposed to have started 10 minutes ago. Sensing my worry, my best friend, Lucy, said cheerfully, "The traffic is probably just bad. The guests of honor are supposed to make a late entrance, right?" Although I nodded at her words, the uneasy feeling in my chest only grew. It was a bad premonition I had experienced many times before. At the most important moments of my life, I had always been left alone. As if to shake off such an ominous thought, I took a sip of water. It was at that very moment that the smartphone in my pocket vibrated. Displayed on the screen was a message from my mother. Just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, unbelievable words jumped out at me. "I'm sorry, Candace. Doris said she has something she needs to talk about urgently, so we're on our way to her house now. We can do your party another time, right? You understand, don't you? We're family." What was she saying? My mind went blank. It was my and my baby's once-in-a-lifetime baby shower. And she said we can do it another time? My fingers trembled, and I desperately tried not to drop my phone when a call came in from my husband, Tom. He must be trying to convince my mother, I thought. Clinging to that last sliver of hope, I answered the phone, only to be met with his desperate words, which served as the final blow. "Sorry, Candace. Doris is having a tough time because she got into a fight with her boyfriend. Your mom called me, and we're all going out to dinner now. It's a crisis for your sister, so let's celebrate some other time. You understand, right? We're family." Understand? What was I supposed to understand? This wasn't the first time my sister Doris had fought with her boyfriend. It was like a monthly ritual, and every time she had to involve the whole family and make a huge scene. Was my selfish sister's usual whim supposed to take precedence over the one and only celebration for my unborn child? Even my own husband Tom was accepting it as if it were a matter of course. Because we're family. Those words again. Whenever I have to give something up, they always use those words as a shield. It felt as if they were implicitly telling me that I alone was outside the family circle, even though that another time never seems to come. All right. When I hung up and looked up, the concerned gazes of my friends pierced me. Their pity was the most painful thing of all. "I'm sorry, everyone. Something urgent came up. My parents and Tom can't make it anymore." It was all I could do to say this, trying to sound calm so my voice wouldn't tremble. An awkward silence fell over the room. My friends must have understood what had happened. No one pressed for details. "Oh, that's a shame," my best friend Lucy said as she gently hugged my shoulder. Her warmth felt like it could snap the thread of tension I was holding on to, and I clenched my jaw. "I can't cry now. I have to be strong for my baby." The party continued, somewhat awkwardly, with the guest of honor's family absent. My friends tried to cheer me up by acting more cheerful than usual, but their kindness only seemed to pierce my heart. I forced myself to enjoy the party, trying to ward off the growing emptiness of wondering why my real family wasn't there. I thought that in itself would be my revenge on them. Thanks to my friends, the party was a great success. However, memories from my childhood came flooding back. My 8th birthday. On that day, too, I was opening my presents alone. My parents had left in the morning, saying they had to accompany Doris to her ballet competition. "Candace, you're a big sister now. So you can stay home alone, right? My mother's eyes weren't looking at me when she said that. It was the same on the day I received my university acceptance letter. The day I was accepted to my first choice university, my family was at a fancy restaurant consoling Doris over a breakup. My success had always been treated as insignificant in the face of my sister's tears. And then history repeated itself. At every important milestone in my life, my family was never there. To them, I was always second best. After the party ended and my friends went home, I was left alone. The silence wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. It was then that the baby inside my large belly gave a strong kick. I felt as if that small movement was trying to tell me something. Mom, I'm here. That's right, I have this child. This child is the one I must protect at all costs. I cannot allow this child to inherit this same sadness. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but they were no longer tears of despair. I slowly stood up, opened the contact list on my smartphone, and found a certain number. It's time to end this. A quiet, yet steely, hard light dwelled in her eyes. This betrayal became the final trigger to break all the chains that had bound my life. Several months have passed since that day. I never mentioned the baby shower incident and spent my days as a calm, pregnant woman, as if nothing had happened. Tom and my parents, taking my silence for granted, acted as if that day's betrayal never occurred. Occasionally, my mother would send me messages bragging about my sister as usual, like, Doris's new boyfriend is a doctor, you know? They must have truly believed that I would forgive and forget everything, just as I always had, never dreaming that beneath the surface I was steadily advancing a grand, life-altering plan. The person I called on my smartphone was Brian, a senior from my university who is a well-known consultant in the real estate industry. It's been a while, Candace. What's up? His unchanging voice on the other end of the line put me slightly at ease. I told him my situation honestly, and then I began to talk about the other side of me that I had kept secret for so long. The truth is, long before I got married, I had started a business on my own. Its name was Bloom Estate. To find new value in old, overlooked things and revitalize them. That was the core philosophy of my business. It all started with the knowledge of architectural design I learned in university. Old apartments that everyone thought should be demolished, or vacant shops in deserted shopping arcades. I knew that in places like these, there were hidden treasures waiting to be polished. First, I used my own savings to buy a room in a small wooden apartment on the outskirts of town. I repainted the walls, replaced the flooring, and intentionally left the old beams and pillars as part of the design. Then, the room that was once considered worthless was reborn into a warm, modern space, and a tenant was found immediately. Following that success, I took on one property after another. For me, it wasn't just a business. Perhaps I was projecting my own life, unappreciated and with its value overlooked by everyone, onto each property. No one in my family knew that I was more than just a housewife. And they had no idea that the business had now grown to a scale far beyond their imagination. My business really took off thanks to a project I undertook 3 years ago. It was an old brick warehouse district in the Bay Area, completely forgotten by the townspeople. The once vibrant area was like a ghost town, with rusted shutters pulled down. Though it was prime real estate, local real estate agents were at a loss and thought the only option was to demolish it and build a new commercial building. But I could see the infinite potential lying dormant in that place. The red brick walls that exuded history, the sturdy steel frames supporting the high ceilings, and the soft light from the sea streaming through the windows. These were unique assets that could never be replicated in a new building. I made the decision, which seemed reckless at the time, to buy the entire warehouse district. Of course, I didn't consult my family at all. Even Tom didn't truly understand the extent of my talent. I secured a loan from the bank, organized a team of reliable architects, and immersed myself in the project, sacrificing sleep. A year later, when the place, christened the Portside Arts District, opened, it instantly became the coolest and most popular spot in town. Crowds of people visited on weekends, and the deserted warehouse district regained a vibrancy it had never known before. This success made Bloom Estate a well-known name in the industry overnight, and my financial foundation became solid, independent of anyone. It was a quiet yet decisive moment of victory, where I had achieved not only emotional, but also financial independence from my family. The success of the Portside Arts District brought me not only financial freedom, but also a single conviction. Even if no one acknowledges you, you can prove your own worth. However, before I could put the finishing touches on my plan, there was one thing I had to take care of: the relationship between Tom and Doris. Why had Tom prioritized Doris over his own child's baby shower? It felt like it clearly surpassed the concern of a mere brother-in-law. I decided to uncover the truth without letting my emotions get the best of me. Through an old journalist acquaintance, I was introduced to a reliable private investigator. The investigation proceeded with surprising ease and speed. Taking advantage of the fact that I was in my late pregnancy and spending more time at home due to not feeling well, Tom and Doris had been meeting secretly in broad daylight. The reports sent by the detective included detailed records, such as photos of the two of them talking intimately in the lounge of a high-end hotel, and records of them meeting at my parents' house on weekends when my parents were away. The definitive proof was a clear photograph of the two of them entering and exiting a hotel in the city. In the photo, Tom was smiling at Doris with a completely relaxed expression, a look he never showed in front of me. Strangely, when I saw that photo, no tears came. What I felt wasn't intense anger, but rather a cold sense of understanding, as if everything had fallen into place. Ah, so that's how it was. Now all the pieces were in place. I began to put the final touches on my plan. It involved purchasing an entire luxury new apartment building constructed right next to my family's home, the very home where I had been neglected for so many years. Its name, the Solaris. This was no longer a simple real estate investment. It was a powerful declaration of my intent to overturn the values of those who had lived under a false sun and to show them the light of a new sun, rising with my own power. The purchase process went extremely smoothly, thanks in part to the help of my consultant, Brian. It was a modern and sophisticated, low-rise apartment building with 8 units. The total cost was $1.5 million. Of course, I paid for it in full with the profits from Bloom Estate. When I signed the contract, my hand didn't tremble in the slightest. The tip of that pen held my will to break away from my unfortunate past and my firm resolve for the new life that was about to begin. Outside the window, I could see my familiar family home. The days I spent in that house were not always happy, but it was because of that place that I am who I am today. Ironically, the place that hurt me the most also made me the strongest. There was no longer any need to look down on that house, nor to envy it, because I had acquired my own castle. A few days later, after confirming that all the procedures were complete, I moved on to the next stage of my plan. A quiet signal fire announcing the beginning of the reversal. I went to the Solaris and took a photo in front of its beautiful glass-walled entrance. My own figure, gently supporting my large belly, smiling serenely. To anyone looking, I would have appeared to be nothing more than a happy, pregnant woman awaiting the birth of a new life. I posted that photo to my Facebook account. The caption I added was very brief. The beginning of a new challenge. I hope to nurture the future together with this beautiful place. I intentionally didn't write, "I bought this." However, the post was clearly geotagged with the location of the Solaris. It was a cleverly laid trap that my family, especially my sister Doris, who never misses a social media check, would never overlook. The moment I tapped the post button, my heart was strangely calm. The calm before the storm. All that was left was to wait for the prey to fall into the trap. It was only an hour after I posted on Facebook. My quiet smartphone began to buzz with notifications, one after another as if it were screaming. The first to react was, as expected, my sister Doris. "What is this all about?" A short sentence, a blatant mix of surprise and jealousy, was written in the comments section. That was the start, and my post seemed to spread like wildfire among my relatives. And then, finally, a call came from that person. It was from my mother, who had been completely ignoring me since the day of the baby shower. However, it wasn't a phone call, but an email written in excruciatingly polite language. "Isn't that amazing, Candace? Is it true that you've become the new owner of the Solaris?" I had no idea. "How wonderful. We absolutely must celebrate. We'll all come over to see you tonight for a huge celebration party." The multiple exclamation points dancing across the text spoke volumes of my mother's excitement and ulterior motives. Even though I hadn't written a single word about buying the apartment, she had interpreted it as a matter of fact. The same person who had been so indifferent to me now wanted to celebrate with the whole family. The speed of her transformation was so absurd it almost made me laugh. Soon after, a frantic phone call came from my husband, Tom. Candace, what the hell is going on? I saw your Facebook post. Did the Solaris become ours? This is incredible. You should have told me. Our future is secure now. In his breathless tirade, there wasn't a hint of concern for me. There was only the desire of a shallow man, ecstatic about his unexpected good fortune. Our future. He spoke of my success as if it were naturally his own. He couldn't even begin to imagine the effort and loneliness I had endured to build this fortune. Yes, that's right. I wanted to surprise you, I answered calmly, my tone of voice unchanged. Their ugly greed was unfolding exactly according to my plan. I was quietly and coldly certain of it. As I bathed in their false words of celebration, I silently sounded the bell for their judgment in my heart. Of course, Mom. Let's all celebrate. I've already told Tom. I'll be waiting in the penthouse of the Solaris. I ended the call with my mother, playing the part of the perfect daughter to the end. I knew exactly what kind of ulterior motives they would bring with them tonight. They were probably buzzing with talk about which apartment they would live in and how the rental income would be divided. They would have completely disregarded me, no doubt getting carried away with deciding which room would be for their yet unborn grandchild. They fully intended to become parasites in the castle I had built without a single doubt. There were only a few hours until the appointed time. I headed alone to the penthouse of the Solaris. The spacious living and dining area was still mostly unfurnished and felt vast. Evening light streamed in through the large wall-to-wall windows, revealing a beautiful cityscape below. And in one corner of that view, my family home looked like a miniature. From that house, this penthouse must look like a castle floating in the sky. By the window, I placed only a large table and enough chairs for each member of my family. This would be the stage for the Last Supper and the final judgment. On the table, I arranged several envelopes. One was addressed to Tom. Inside were the damning photos taken by the detective of him and Doris entering the hotel, along with divorce papers prepared by a famous law firm, waiting only for his signature. Another was for my parents and Doris. It contained a list that dispassionately chronicled the many wrongs they had done to me, complete with dates, and a legally binding document declaring my refusal to provide any future financial assistance or to have any further involvement with them. Everything was ready. The intercom buzzed a little after the appointed time. Displayed on the monitor were the smiling faces of my family. They were dreaming of the sweet life that was about to begin, not suspecting a thing. I stood up slowly, took a single deep breath, and quietly unlocked the entrance. Now, let the final act begin. I will be the one to bring this farce to an end. The moment they stepped into the penthouse, my family let out cries of joy. This is amazing, Candace. It's just like a hotel suite, my mother shouted, her heels clicking on the marble floor as she explored the room. The top floor should obviously be for us, the family. It gets the best sun. Doris immediately followed up. My room absolutely has to be the corner one facing south. It has a balcony, right? As for Tom, he crossed his arms with the air of a father and gazing out the window muttered pretentiously, not bad. This would be a perfectly good environment to raise a child in. My existence was completely absent from their conversation. There was not a shred of respect for the master who had built this castle. As if it were their natural right, they spoke of my property as their own and had already begun to divide it. At the sight of their shamelessness, my heart became perfectly calm. Having finished their inspection of the room to their satisfaction, they finally took their seats at the table. So, Candace, my father said, speaking to me for the first time. How much did it cost? Quite something. His eyes, rather than praising me, held a vulgar glint as if he were sizing me up. I could feel their greed reach its peak. Now. Without a word, I stood up and quietly slid the envelopes I had prepared across the table, one in front of each person. What's this? Tom asked, picking up the envelope with a suspicious look. But the moment he saw its contents, the color drained from his face. What is this? What kind of sick joke is this? He stammered, his voice trembling. Spread before him were the photos of him and Doris intimately entering the hotel. And then I delivered my final verdict. That's no joke, Tom. Those are the divorce papers to end our relationship. There is no longer a place for you here. Next, I turned to my stunned parents and Doris and stated coldly, and as of today, I am cutting all ties with you as a family. You didn't come here today to celebrate with me. You came here to be parasites, to leech off this apartment and my wealth, didn't you? What are you talking about, Candace? Have you lost your mind? My father yelled, jumping to his feet. But I didn't back down an inch. Who's the one who's lost their mind? You, who have trampled on goodwill and betrayed me time and time again, have no right to call yourselves family. I calmly pressed the call button on my phone to the security guards I had arranged in advance. I watched, expressionless, the ugly scene of my family becoming hysterical and hurling insults. The sight of them being dragged out of the penthouse, each arm held by a security guard, was like a scene from a low-budget comedy. You'll regret this, Candace. Don't you dare think you can get away with this. The final curses they screamed were completely cut off as the heavy door swung shut. At last, silence fell upon the room where I stood alone. It was the moment the heavy chains that had bound my heart for so long were finally broken. As if to celebrate, the baby in my belly gave another gentle kick. Feeling that warm movement, I smiled peacefully, my expression bright and clear. Months and years passed. On that day, in that place, I took the first step of my new life. The divorce from Tom was finalized without any issues, thanks to the ironclad evidence. Our son, who was born soon after, was placed in my custody. I named him Luke, with the hope that he would grow up to be as bright as the sun. The penthouse of the Solaris is now a warm home, filled with the sound of Luke's laughter. Word has it that the lives of my former family, having completely lost their financial support, have changed drastically. Tom's position at his company is in jeopardy, and Doris, unable to shake her spending habits, is said to be drowning in debt. My parents, in order to support the two of them, apparently had to sell the family home that was supposed to be filled with memories. I am no longer a character in that story. Whatever path they walk is no longer my concern. The other day, I hosted a small house party, inviting the residents of the Solaris, my colleagues from Bloom Estate, and my best friend Lucy. The living room was filled with my home-cooked food and everyone's smiles. No one here sizes me up or tries to use me. Here, there are only genuine, warm bonds. Blood can at times be colder than anything, but we have the power to choose our own warm connections. Clasping Luke's small hand as he slept peacefully in my arms, I looked lovingly at the true family I had built with my own hands. Beyond the past I had overcome, a future this bright had been waiting for me all along.